Welcome back to Cablevision's Meet the Leaders. Our guest today is Brookhaven Town Councilwoman Connie Kepert. You know, you have been a leader in a movement that's called sustainable development. And the people say, oh yeah, sustainable development, I'm all for that. But as I think about it, I'm not quite sure what that means. So if you were to define sustainable development and how it relates, for example, to the town of Brookhaven or Long Island, what would your definition be?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things we were just talking about was energy, reducing our energy consumption, and we can certainly do that by making our homes more efficient and by driving more efficient cars. But we also have to reduce just the miles driven. We can't get to the point where we need to be as far as reducing carbon content and reducing global warming without reducing our car trips and miles driven. And one of the things sustainable development or smart growth does is help us do that. And it helps us do that by creating what we refer to as pedestrian-oriented centers, mixed-use centers that I know you are very familiar with since you live in one, like the older towns on Long Island, like Babylon, like Port Jefferson, like Sayville, like Bellport, that has a mix of uses, and houses are close to stores. Housing can be close to workplaces. They're walkable. And if you have to take a car trip, they're shorter. So that's one of the big advantages and one of the big essential parts of sustainable development.
So how do you take a community like Brookhaven, and you're kind of like on the edge. If you're in western Brookhaven, you're a little bit closer to the major employment centers on Long Island, the Route 110 corridor, even Nassau County and Hauppauge. But if you're in the eastern part of Brookhaven, because it's so big, you're closer to Riverhead and all that, and there just aren't as many high-paying jobs, or as many jobs, let's put it that way, in that part of the county. So how do you create communities that have the right mix of housing, employment opportunities, retail, so that you're in effect, you know, creating those villages,
right?
Like that, like you referred to, like the Sayvilles, like the Bellports.
Well, trying to do it in several different ways. Right now, we're engaged in what we call Brookhaven 2030, which is our comprehensive land use plan. And in that, in a number of visionings that I have tried to move forward in my district, we are looking at TODs, or transit-oriented development, which have been very, very successful in places like New Jersey. And that is simply developing a mix of uses, higher density housing around our train stations. We are looking at, in Brookhaven, we're looking at the Bellport train station, which is in my district, and also looking at the Ronkonkoma hub to create TODs.
Which is a great opportunity. I mean, Ronkonkoma is where they, the railroad a number of years ago.
It's where the railroad ends. It's
where,
like
where the electrification ends. It actually ends there. But that changed commuting habits and patterns, and for that matter, residential patterns as a consequence, because you could take a train from Ronkonkoma into New York City in just a little over an hour if you get the express.
Yes, yes. So that's one of the ways we do that. We are also trying to funnel development rather than contribute to the sprawl model. And in Brookhaven, for many years, and you know, when I was a civic leader, it was thought in order to preserve our pristine environment, the Pine Barrens and so forth, we would zone by, you know, A1, 1 house per acre, or even A5, 1 house per 5 acres. Unfortunately, we learned, like many areas also learned, that contributes to sprawl. It spreads everything out. And instead of preserving our very important areas of open space, it precipitated the destruction of those pristine areas. So now we are trying to develop in a different way. We're trying to funnel development into centers that have higher densities and a mix of uses, stores and workplaces, as well as residences, and public spaces, by the way, which are very important. And preserve those outlying areas of open space.
How do you get the public to buy into that? Because, as you know, people, and I guess it's just human nature, tend to resist change.
Yes.
And it's very easy to say, oh, well, they're going to have all of this higher density housing, these condominiums, these townhouses over here with these stores, and not acknowledge the fact that, well, 3/4 of the rest of it is going to remain open space.
Yes.
And if we didn't do this, we'd actually have more development in the entire parcel. How do you engage the public? Is that through visionings?
It is through visionings. It is not easy. I don't want to, tell the audience that this is an easy thing to do. It has been more difficult than I expected it to be. It is through visionings, and one of the things that I really enjoy in visioning is the educational component. People can see that development does not mean the destruction of their communities or their way of life. That development can actually mean improvement of their way of life if you do it in a certain way. And so visionings have been helpful. I think we really need in the town of Brookhaven some models that people can go to and say, oh, this is what they mean by new sustainable development, because we do have the older towns. And I also find that young people in the town are really advocates for this type of development.
Why is that about young people? What are they looking for,
They're looking
that they're not finding in the typical suburban subdivision?
Looking for excitement. They're looking for, they enjoy the interaction. They want places to go. They want places that are in walking distance. They want a variety of things to do close by where they live. And so I find it's the young people that will probably be the force that moves this forward.
Okay, when we come back, I want to talk to you about some of the things you're doing in places like Sandy Hills and Farmingville and elsewhere, and some of the beautification efforts and vacant properties that all tie into all of these quality of life and sustainable development initiatives. So when we come back, we're going to finish our conversation with Brookhaven Councilwoman Connie Kepert. Don't go away.